Good morning. Welcome to Screen Junkies Universe. Happy Thursday. I know it's Thursday because Danielle Radford is here.
Hello.
Yay. Joe Starr is here.
Hi.
Mr. Dan Murrell.
Hello.
We are going to be talking about the most interesting movie in the world that is being developed currently. We're going to talk about that. We're going to remember the Queen of Soul. But first, quick update. We've talked quite a bit about James Gunn, although we haven't gotten Miss Danielle's take, so I'll be anxious to hear that. James Gunn did meet with Disney, and they are reportedly standing firm on their decision not to rehire him for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. This is via Variety as an exclusive, who reports that Gunn had a meeting with the studio chairman, Alan Horn, and his UTA reps were pushing hard for him to get a second chance. And Alan Horn basically took it as a courtesy, but had kind of no intention of taking him back. Kevin Feige, it had been reported, was pushing hard for James Gunn to be rehired, but it's now being said that he will stand behind the studio. He was out of town, so he wasn't able to attend the meeting, but once he gets back, he's going to be looking for a new director. Danielle, we haven't heard much from you on this. What's your overall take? And this update, does this surprise you?
Well, first off, this doesn't surprise me even like a little bit. Although it must be so weird to just be out of town doing whatever it is you're doing and knowing everyone's waiting for you to get back in town for this thing.
Well,
That
it's
must
also
feel
probably like it's interesting time to be out of town.
Yeah.
He's just walking around at the Mall of America like,
Do I have to go back?
Are they done yet?
This one is because I've been doing stand-up for too many years, and so I know what it is. There was just this era where everyone was making these super crass jokes that were not funny, and a lot of us would tell people, we would be like, you can do whatever you want, but it's hacky and it's really unfunny. I had a couple of jokes
and then they point at you and go, "You're unfunny.
You're unfunny. Comedy has no limits." And so, yeah, obviously,
It's the audience's fault.
yeah, obviously, like none of it was. The tweets was not good. They were not funny. It's a different. He was known for being like that edgelord, and I've always kind of been like, ugh. And so when he did get hired on for Guardians, I was like, wait, the trauma dude? Like that doesn't, like none of that made any sense to me, but he did at the time say like, look, I've like grown and I wouldn't do that anymore. That isn't who I am anymore. I will say, if I'm not mistaken, there were some of those tweets that did use the T slur, I believe. I will have to go back and double check on that. But if that is the case, I am certainly not going to tell trans folks how they should feel about that. You know, the kind of other jokes are one thing, but when it's using, you know, a slur like that, I'm not going to tell anyone like that actually could affect like how they should feel about it. But I do think that it is very disingenuous coming from the direction it came from. And that it was simply just one of those, well, he talked bad about my guy and you got one of ours with Roseanne, so now we're going to get one of yours. It's like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. And so that's been my take on it. It's not a total black and white issue for me. He has gone on record, even before all of this. It would be one thing if he was saying all of this now, like, I've grown and I've changed and yada yada, because that can feel a little like, well, now of course you did because you got caught. But he has said on multiple occasions that like he is not the same person that he used to be. And I do think that if we're not allowing people to change and to grow as all of us collectively have a better idea of better ways to treat each other, then kind of what's any of it for?
Yeah, that's pretty much encapsulated everything that we've all said along the way. I actually didn't know about the one though. Hey, do you think it's interesting that Kevin Feige wasn't there or pointed that he left it between Gunn and Alan Horn, sort of like underscoring that this is Disney's decision?
Kevin Feige's a smart dude.
Yes, he is.
He don't want to go to that meeting. This is a weird meeting, and this is like a meeting where a couple broke up, and it's just all still really raw, and so like their best friend gets them together to be like, let's just like take one last ditch effort at this Chili's to like see if you guys can work this out. And it's just very cold and uncomfortable, and they both know it's not going to happen, but they like go through the motions of it anyway. And Kevin Feige doesn't want to go to that Chili's. He doesn't want to be part of it. He's a smart guy. This is the I don't know, the PR version of when people are like, Kevin Feige, do you know what would be a cool movie? If like 46 female superheroes that have never had a movie or TV show before had a movie, or if we just had a Batman movie, but Marvel or anything, and he just goes, yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
that would be, you know what?
We're thinking about it.
Yeah, we've got a lot of plates, and we're spinning all the plates, and that's a really great plate to spin. This is his version of that, where he's just like, I just had a vacation lined up with this, and they'll take care of it, and I hope they get some chicken fingers.
Why was it okay.
Chicken
you know what?
crispers.
It's just
Thank you.
They're at a Chili's show.
Yeah. I think that's what I was looking for. So thank you, Dan.
Thank you, because everyone was like, LA fraud.
That
Forgot your roots.
That was an important missing detail.
I mean,
so,
Chili's is
yeah.
Chili's makes the distinction.
Yeah.
is
It
why
does.
I'm-
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You are absolutely
Yeah.
right. I forgot where I'm from.
Yeah, no, but thank you.
I love Chili's.
Yeah.
I go there all the time.
Dan's like, who was at that meeting at Chili's? Dan.
Dan,
was. I was
you're
there.
just in the
Just
booth
by
behind
chance,
us.
I was
Just
randomly
happened to be there.
there
It was
next to
enjoying
Alan
their
Horn.
delicious
Yeah.
chips and salsa.
Yeah, it was very awkward.
It was
I imagine.
very awkward.
Yeah.
That Asian chicken wrap?
I just picture Dan sitting at a table behind them, like
Behind
crunch.
Yeah. Across the table from Scoops McGee's taking copious notes.
I'm surprised you were able
Fortunately,
to.
he went to Variety
Did
instead
you
of us
meet-
with this. This is very upsetting.
Were you able to meet Scoops?
No, we kept going to the bathroom alternate
man.
times. It's very strange.
That's very upsetting.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you had talked to him because maybe you would have some insight about who you think Feige's going to go with as this next director when he does get back from his own vacation at Applebee's.
Yeah, I think that it's like you said, Feige, I think, saw the writing on the wall. I'm sure that he had probably already had his own conversations, and I honestly think if there were a chance that James Gunn was going to get hired back, that Kevin Feige would have been at this meeting. Because if he was an advocate for James Gunn, and there's a chance that if he advocates, lobbies for him, and he's going to get hired, then he would have been there, I think. I think they had to take this meeting. Because if you don't take the meeting, then it's a thing about, like Disney won't take the meeting, and
Yeah.
they may, the die has been cast on this, and we've talked about the fallout, and who knows what the fallout is going to be now, because the director question has been settled, and now the next question is not only the next director, but it's a scripting question. You're not going to use him as a director. Do you use his script? Is that the same thing? Is it just putting a different hat on him, and are people going to be just as upset if you do? Are they going to be just as upset if you don't? What do you do about the cast? Like, those are the new questions. So
I
The
think
Drax
too,
question, if they don't use the
Batista
script.
question, yeah, exactly.
I think that point about keeping it about Disney and James Gunn is a really interesting one too, because if Feige goes to that meeting knowing that it's a courtesy meeting and knowing that's like the first loss for Kevin Feige at Disney.
Exactly,
that's
which
an L,
is-
and
which
he
is-
has none.
Exactly, which is why that's sort of why I posed that question, because I do think he's really smart, and I think he's definitely at the Mall of America having some chili right now, because he needs to stand in the position where the fans of James Gunn think that Kevin Feige fought, whether he did or he didn't, he probably did, fought the good fight for Gunn, but that he doesn't stand in open opposition to Disney either, who he works for. So I hope he had fun in Minnesota.
And I think it's important for the fans
place to visit.
to
It's
perceive
beautiful.
that Feige and Marvel were hedging this way, but Disney was hedging that way, and there's some, because it's a shit show at this point. Pardon my French. So I think that they are trying to salvage whatever face they can with either side, both sides, all 18 trillion sides of this.
Do you guys think with that angle, with Marvel sort of hedged this way and Disney in the future, do you think it'll be a maneuver for like the smaller, not smaller, but like the sub companies within Disney to sort of differentiate a little bit, so that like even though everything's Disney, there will be the perception of like, well, yeah, Marvel's Disney, but like they're also the cool kid in the class that sits in the back, and they don't like necessarily what the mouse is doing.
Yeah, it's a huge. That would be a great marketing move for Lucasfilm, for Marvel, for Pixar, for whoever ends up heading Pixar.
New bad kid Fox.
Yeah, because that way Disney gets to play bad cop and will inevitably have to or choose to, whichever it is, in a variety of situations, and then it's like on the parent company, but we didn't do it. But also there's probably some truth to that, because at the end of the day, however strongly Kevin Feige felt, however valuable he is to Disney, which he is infinitely valuable to Disney, Alan Horn is not going to be sitting in a position where anyone that is under him can strong arm him.
Yeah.
He's just not going to do it, because that's going to set, it's like the mafia. That's going to set a very bad precedent.
man.
You've got to break those legs
Yeah.
if you're going to be respected.
He's not going to get little fingered.
Do you
Yeah.
think that meeting is like that scene in Goodfellas? Like Feige goes, or like Gunn goes and walks in, doesn't see Feige there, and he's like, "Oh man."
Oh
Yeah.
man, probably right.
Yeah.
Because that, if he had any question before, that would have given him his answer. And by the way, when I make that analogy, it's not like I'm celebrating that, but he's not. He can't show that kind of weakness in his position, in my opinion.
James Gunn is a liability to
Yeah.
Disney at this point. It's just the truth. There's stuff, there was the thing of just, and the way that it works right now is when something comes out, it's automatically given a spin. It's not presented objectively and then spun by others. It's now when things come out, largely it comes out with the spin, so it immediately becomes the narrative. I saw the pictures from the costume party, and it was and again, this was, I don't know what year it was, but I hear about these things all the time. It's like, we're doing a To Catch a Predator thing party, ha ha ha, hilarious, which I've never found funny, but as Danielle pointed out, like, that's just, there's a wing of comedy where you take taboo subjects and you make it whatever, and then, but that comes out like James Gunn attends pedophilia themed party, but that's how it's presented, and
Yeah,
so
that's
that's
the
the
first
narrative
thing, yeah.
immediately, and Disney cannot put itself in a position to be continuously liable for whatever else comes out, largely because it's not even going to be presented necessarily on, in a mainstream media source or on television or in print. It's going to be uncovered by a website or a number of websites that potentially have an agenda, pro or anti,
Right.
and presented in whatever way they want to present it.
Right.
And then you're not even fighting against the spin of the facts. You're automatically fighting the narrative that it's presented, and it's just not tenable.
Yeah,
for Disney
right,
to do.
yeah,
they
they-
just can't do it.
Yeah.
They can't spend time doing that when they have so many other things. This is a very, it's a big deal in the world of entertainment, but for Disney, given everything else that they have going on, it's a relatively small slice of the pie. It's something they want to go away and move on from. And it's funny because we talked about Disney as a very family-friendly brand before, and there were some people. It was some interesting responses I got on Twitter saying, "Well, what about they've had sexualized characters in cartoons, and they've done these things in terms of their employees in the parks and how they're treated." All fair. When we say family-friendly brand, that means how they present and have presented traditionally to the world. And when you see the mouse, for most people, what that signifies, and there's a depth of signifiers to that brand because it's so old and it's so clear. When you see Mickey Mouse, it means very distinctive things versus like if you see this Paramount symbol, I think it's a horse. Isn't it a horse?
Is it a mountain?
Or
It's
is
a
it
mountain.
a,
Some
is
sort
it
of
a
mountain.
Yeah, it's a mountain.
Shaped like a horse.
TriStar used to be a horse.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's my point. That's my point. Disney, like Disney is a very deeply embedded brand in worldwide cultural psyche, and it is known to be a family-friendly brand. They don't want to have people questioning that.
I ultimately think, if I'm being honest, in the long run, Disney probably would have had no choice but to fire him anyway.
Yeah.
If I'm being 100% honest, my problem is still with the fact that it was done with no. It turned a nuanced situation that could have used some discourse into just a black and white, boom, you're done thing, and that still remains the thing that I am just kind of most put off by is the fact that it was presented as a very black and white easy case of boom, this is the thing, this is what it looks like, we're validating your worst fears and we're immediately terminating him, whereas I don't think that's what it is. But I believe ultimately, given the tweets that came out, given everything else, I think that they ultimately would have fired him anyway.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's the lack of process that I think has left a bad taste in my mouth and has left a bad taste in a lot of other people's mouths too.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it's sort of, we've talked about the lack of the ability sort of in general, but really this is kind of a very isolated incident that demonstrates a larger cultural issue around binary ways of looking at things and not wanting to go any deeper than that largely. But you know what? It is what it is. It's pretty much done at this point. One little asterisk, and then we're going to move on to a very fun story, which is, yeah, I know Mickey Mouse isn't their symbol. It's like the castle. But you know what I mean. Okay. Mickey Mouse is a signifier unto himself. What if I told you that there was a movie coming out starring Val Kilmer, Denise Richards, and an actual robot? Sign me up. Ticket bought. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Wait, in the year of our Lord 2018, this is happening?
I don't think, well, it's being developed in the year of our Lord 2018. I believe it will be available in theaters in the year of our Lord 2019 or 20. Let me break this down for us because it's a very important story. This is via Deadline. Okay. American History X director Tony Kaye.
There's so much happening.
So much is happening right now.
Yeah.
Is trying to make a innovative new step in filmmaking by casting an actual AI, a robot, AI. Well, I guess those are two separate things. An artificial intelligent robot actor as the lead in his next film. The film is called Second Born. It gets better. Second Born is the sequel to the as yet to be released Firstborn, starring Val Kilmer and Denise Richards, who are reported to return for Second Born. Here's the plot summary. The plot summary for Firstborn is that Tucker and Hamid are going to be grandfathers for the first time, but only if they can come together long enough to save their firstborn grandchild, which means we have zero idea at all why a robot is necessary unless Secondborn is like a small wonder situation where the second-born is an actual robot.
Like
I'm not sure.
They didn't save the grandchild, so they had to put the grandchild into
Inside
a
a
robot.
robot.
Maybe. So basically what Tony Kaye, who it's unclear, he did not direct the first film, which is the first Iranian and Hollywood co-produced movie.
Oh.
And
There's
he
so much happening.
There's so much happening.
I know.
14 hats on 14 different hats.
He may be producing Secondborn, which again, we're not sure why it needs a robot, but he wants to train the robot in multiple acting techniques in lieu of using a CGI robot a la iRobot.
Okay, but
I just need all of you to respond.
You can't use Meisner. Like, there's a lot of techniques. Like, Stanislavski's not going to work with that robot.
Let's do it. Let's do it right now. Let's repeat. I'll be the robot.
You be the robot?
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. You are a robot.
I am a robot.
Hello, you are a robot.
Hello, I am a robot. If you guys don't know
already
what we're doing
self-aware.
right now.
We're already dead.
Yeah. So the
Roth
Meisner...
immediately just starts strangling.
And then it kills you. So I know you're going to be mad at me. I love technology, but this is amazing. The Meisner technique, which Danielle just brought up, is essentially like the building blocks to it, or you just observe something about your partner and repeat it until you are forced emotionally to change by what they are eliciting in you emotionally. So
Which is going to get really awkward when the robot starts saying, "You are an inferior life form." You're like, I'm an inferior life form?
Well, the whole idea is, can you teach a robot to feel? Because if you can teach a robot, in order to teach a robot to act, you have to teach a robot to feel.
If you can teach a robot to feel, you can teach a robot to kill, and I'm not comfortable with that.
How is the robot going to know it's acting and that they don't actually just hate these people and want to slap them or you know?
Exactly. How do you teach the robot
These are such good
Fake
questions.
false reality?
Yeah.
First, you have to teach it
fiction
reality,
is.
First,
and
you have
then
to
you have
teach
to
it,
teach
yeah.
it fake reality.
These are really excellent points, guys. Keep them coming.
How much is
Keep
the robot
them
getting
coming.
paid?
Well, the funny thing is going to be when Edward Norton locks the robot out of the editing room and finishes himself.
Wait, Danielle just raised a really good point, because one of Tony's plans is to have the robot be part of SAG, which means he would have to would have to pay SAG dues.
Which means also robot's going to have to get its points somehow.
And an agent?
Yeah.
And a bank
Commercials?
account?
Mm-hmm.
Commercials, maybe?
How liberated is this robot, Dan?
Very, very liberated, apparently, which I don't like. There's a robot that's been dormant since the 1980s that I think would be perfect for this role, and
Okay.
that's Conky 3000 from Pee-wee's Playhouse. Personality, like
Yeah.
you wouldn't believe.
Out the
I
wazoo.
think that you plug in Conky 3000, or didn't you unplug? No, you had to plug in Conky 3000. Wi-Fi at this point, I'm sure.
I I think Dan's really onto something in that I don't want this robot to be humanoid in any way, shape, or form. Because why does a robot need to be humanoid? That's just for us. Like a robot doesn't need arms and a face.
No, we're kind of imposing our own BS on this robot.
Which I don't think is cool. I want this thing to just look like a Roomba, but everyone has to act alongside it like it's Michael Keaton. That's what I want.
What do you? And then there's so many.
I was doing again. Hey, I don't know. Just get gears. What?
And then so many techniques that are acting techniques rely on going back into your own memory.
Yes. Like, how are you teaching Stanislavski?
Do you teach a robot yes and?
I mean, I feel like you're raising really good points. I don't think you can teach the robot Stanislavski because it would have to have memories to draw on. So that's maybe why they would lean on Meisner, because Meisner leans fully on the imaginative circumstances.
What if they sent the robot to theater school and like on day 6, it was like, this is an illogical waste of money, and it became an accountant.
I mean, if you're going to give the robot autonomy, you're choosing for it that it has to be an actor. So already you're
don't Lindsay Lohan that
choice.
robot.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Don't child star that robot.
You're basically being a stage mom, Tony.
You're the Dina Lohan of robots.
Oh, remember how back in the day they would tell him their dog died to get him to cry? What are we gonna have to do to this poor robot to make it emote?
They're gonna hit a microwave with a hammer.
It's not. It's
weird. That's the first thing I thought of. Smashing a microwave. Well,
it's not even a movie about a robot, though. That's the weird thing.
We don't know.
It's like a rom-com.
Where it's unclear.
Right?
Well, Firstborn appears to be completely robot-free.
Right.
However, what I'd like to know is why Secondborn, which again I want to emphasize, also includes Val Kilmer and Denise Richards, needs a robot.
And nope, Paul Rudd.
Hey, Paul Rudd.
I looked at the cast list for Secondborn. I think it also includes the guy from Borat, who was like his assistant guy,
his manager or whatever.
Yeah, I cannot remember his name. He was in everything for like 4 years after Borat. But it's like, is he the robot? Is there going to be a robot Borat? What's happening? What is this world that we live in?
Pitch the plot of the movie, Joe.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I think we stick with the opening scene is a bait and switch where the happy ending of Firstborn was not a happy ending, and they got to put that little grandson's brain inside this little rolly robot that looks like a toaster on wheels, on little skateboard wheels. And that's the grandson, but then the government finds out about it, and they try to steal the robot grandson. Of course they do. And the grandpas enlist the help of Charlie Sheen and Denise Richards, who are former Delta Force, now just living as farmers in the Middle East to make peace with the past 15 years of unmitigated American aggression in the Middle East. And in order to make peace, they help these grandpas go get little robot grandson back.
Danielle, I love that. Can you yes and add on and loop it home with some need to dance for the center?
So the factory that makes these adorable robots that replace our dead children is... People are so weirded out, much the same way they treated Frankenstein's monster, of the idea of these robots getting older and taking over. And so people are trying to take away the funding for the factory. But you have all these little robots in there, and they're teaching them how to feel. And the best way you can do that is through the art of dance.
Yes.
And so now these little Roomba robots who can move them hips like no one's business have to put on a show. They have to put on a show to prove their humanity and that they are beings who deserve to live.
Yeah. The weird thing is their hips, to Joe's point, do lie, but still, damn, can they dance?
Damn, can they dance.
I think this is I am so excited by this news. I feel like, Dan, is this not our new Meg? Are we not now counting down to Secondborn?
If I were not entirely convinced that this could be some kind of a sleeper agent thing to smuggle weird robots into the United States for nefarious purposes, I might say so, but I want to see what this robot is capable of before I sign off on this robot project.
Why does the robot have so many circular saws on its arm?
Exactly.
The weird thing is, I mean,
Why does it need those?
I really doubted. This is coming from Deadline, so this is happening. This is an actual thing. But to your point, do you think that this is some elaborate robot uprising plan, or do you think it's a plant?
I think it's not going to happen. If I'm being honest, I don't think that they're going to
that's
teach a
the-
robot how to act.
Well, that's the saddest news.
I'm more worried
Or
that
is
the
it the
robot's
best news? we've
Yeah,
ever
I think the robot's going to get really attached to his castmates, and Val Kilmer's just not going to return that dude's calls.
I think it's
Yeah.
well. I think the saddest thing would actually be what you brought up in a real way. What you brought up earlier, which would be that the robot wouldn't be able to distinguish between fake reality and reality. Much like many older actors. But at the end of the film, when it was like, okay, you're done now, like go cash your check and, live in your little robot apartment, it would feel so sad and betrayed and lonely because all of the other cast members, except Val Kilmer, who inevitably would move in with the robot.
Yeah. But silver lining, this is going to be the best follow-up to Grey Gardens.
Yes.
Is elderly Val Kilmer and this robot that just live together in a weird mansion.
the best outfit of the day.
We will. I assure you that the minute we have more news on the robot movie, we will be bringing it. That is our commitment to you right here on Screen Junkies News, where we do journalisms. Okay, we have a real thing to talk about. It is very, very sad. Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, passed away in her home in Detroit at the age of 76. She was battling advanced pancreatic cancer. This is via the New York Times. This is according to her publicist, Gwendolyn Quinn. Obviously, Aretha Franklin is one of the greatest artists of all time, period. I was listening to a show this morning just talking a little bit about the scope of her career and how instrumental she was in the producing of her music, as well as we all know. She was very, very, very active in the civil rights movement. I know Aretha Franklin, like we all do. One of the three movies that defined my childhood and my personality is The Blues Brothers, True Story. And I also was just a weird human person for the bulk of my life, including right now. And I listened to Aretha Franklin almost every day as a teenager, as I was getting ready for school. And she lived such a great life, so that's where we can take comfort. But this is a huge loss. So what are your memories of Aretha?
Gosh, no, I think like the first time I ever heard "Rock the Boat" was like, oh, okay, or "Rock Steady," sorry. And then
I would try to sing any of this because it immediately pops into your head, but I won't.
Yeah, that was I posted that because I was like, I know so many people are going to be singing Aretha at karaoke, and I know that Aretha would not be impressed.
She would just be like,
just side-eyeing.
Yeah.
That is one of the most fun things because I feel like she has been this like pillar of like living legend greatness ever since I've been a person. And one of the best things in the last few years is just all of these interviews where you get to see really just how shady she is. And that has been so much fun.
I don't know if it's shade so much as like she just didn't suffer fools gladly.
No.
Yeah.
No, not even her friends, not even other living legends or other very famous pop singers or anyone.
Not if they crossed her.
Not if they crossed her. And people would, some of her friends like Gladys Knight has been like, look, that's just Ree, and that's just how she's going to be. And we just all know who she is. But yeah, just a legendary voice and an incredible talent. And what a life.
Yeah.
What a heck of a life. So it's sad, but it's also like, man, she lived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you always sort of take comfort. It's always really sad when someone passes away, when it feels too soon, very young. She was struggling over the past few years with various illnesses, but she just would want to keep going back on the road because that's the person that she was. What about you, Dan?
I mean, obviously, from the movie angle, first of all, she was one of the few there's not many artists ever, even some of the greats, where she was like Sinatra and people who, James Brown, when you hear their voice, you know instantly who it is. And even some of the greatest artists of all time didn't have that ability to, the second you heard Aretha Franklin singing a song, you knew it was Aretha Franklin. That kind of singularity is so rare. And then just thinking about the movies, like not only obviously the 4 fried chickens and a Coke and a piece of dry white toast, and
Orange Whip, 300 whips.
She was one of the great one of the great sequences, and I love her part of the Blues Brothers. But talking about contribution to cinema, and not just her actual physical appearance, but think of how many scenes, trailers, etc., were scored to her music. And the reason why was because her music was so passionate and evocative and cathartic that Hollywood attached itself to it in a way that they knew that using it in so many countless movies would evoke that kind of emotion from an audience and would inspire that kind of emotion from characters in their films. And I think that, again, that's rare that you have an artist who makes music that's so meaningful to so many different other artists that they would use it to express the feelings of their characters and set the tone for their films, etc. That, the legacy to so many different areas of the arts is so huge.
Yeah. If you haven't seen Blues Brothers,
Do it.
watch Blues Brothers. Think is easily, I think, the best musical number in the movie. It's one of my favorite musical numbers in a movie musical. What I love about it is there's a lot of really cool cameos in Blues Brothers, but most of them are kind of like this. Like, I'm a famous person. They're almost like Muppet movie cameos, where it's like, hey, it's me, I'm a famous person, wink, let's do a song. And then they do it, and then they're like, goodbye. And then the Blues Brothers continue on their quest. But Aretha Franklin's character in Blues Brothers she has an arc. In like 4 minutes, she has an arc. You know who she is instantly. She's like this hard-working woman in this diner. She's trying to like hold together these rejects from a band. To like, there's like just a guy on the,
And they are so ungrateful.
yeah, there's just a line cook with like a saxophone, and it's like you can see instantly like this is like the shit she deals with. And then these 2 idiots come in, 4 fried chickens and a Coke, white toast dry, and she does the song, she does Think, which sums up what she's clearly been going through since she inherited the Blues Brothers mess. And then you have that last beat of what's his name? Duck Dunn, the saxophone player, like takes one moment as they're all leaving. Her husband walks out to go back on the road, and Duck Dunn like takes one moment to be like, is this cool? Kind of like, because he doesn't talk, but he's like, and she just goes, well, go ahead.
Yeah.
And like throws a rag and just sits at a table and is just broken. And it's such an amazing sequence in 4 minutes of movie.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That is such a well-made point. You're so right, because I was thinking about this driving in this morning, how, look, it's the Blues Brothers and they're the heroes of the movie, for sure. And you're rooting, we're in the band back together. That's the whole point. They have to. And so you have to root for them to do that and to succeed in that mission and gather the pieces of the band. But she's able to be the hindrance to that happening, the obstacle in that sequence, and yet you're still rooting for her and you still empathize with her by the end of that sequence, because she's left all alone. As much as you're glad that the band is getting back together, you feel the full force of her humanity. And that song is amazing. And they were also talking about how she sort of reworked Respect, and it was just the way that she sang it and the riffs that she added that made it an anthem. Because she was singing with so much depth and her own history and her own meaning is what she brought to that song. Just amazing. This is very, very sad, as we've been saying. Do you have final thoughts on Miss Franklin?
No, just like I said, what a great legacy to leave behind.
Yeah. Yeah, I forget who tweeted it, but someone did this great tweet today that was like, Aretha wasn't even fair because she would cover your song, and that's her song now. People would just forget that you wrote that song.
Like Respect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Joe, I loved that point so much. Any final thoughts?
I think to sort of piggyback on what Danielle was saying on just her persona, Aretha Franklin had a personality where if you put that character in any TV show, the premise of the TV show would break. Yeah. Because she would just stand in King's Landing and just be like, that guy killed that guy's brother. You clearly want to bang her. Like, I saw you sharpening knives and staring at that dude, and then everyone would just be like, well, shit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Go.
Yep.
Those are our thoughts. We look forward to hearing your own. Let us know what Aretha Franklin meant to you in the comments below. Also comment on any of the other things we discussed today, including a robot movie and what's going on over at Marvel. We will see you later today for Movie Fights. Champion Cucumber is coming back, but he's not going to fight Dan, not just yet. He's doing a little warm-up round before he meets the Dan against Joe Starr and the wonderful Erika Ishii, who's Joe's wonderful too. I don't know who to root for.
This is going to be such a delightful fight. I am
Yes.
so looking forward to this.
I'm going to get destroyed, but I'm happy with my answers, and the ship's already on fire. And I'm already kind of going down, but it's fine. It's going to be a
Joe,
glorious
you
end.
say that every time. You give yourself no credit.
No. My answers are ridiculous this round, but I'm just so ready to just charge in with like lit arrows and just be it's going to be glorious.
It's going to be these are three great fighters. I love that puppet so damn much.
I really hope I can keep it
Felt
together
American.
this time.
Yeah. I don't blame you if you don't. I don't. Nobody does. Nobody does. But you should be there. It's going to be an awesome fight. The Dans will be there. Everybody's going to be there. It's going to be a party, and we will see you later.
Oh, can they teach the robot to do thumbs up?